Imagine waking up and your entire neighborhood has drifted 3 miles overnight. Your street is still your street. Your neighbors are still your neighbors. But the coastline outside your window is gone. This isn't science fiction anymore. Somewhere off the coast of South Korea, engineers are already building it. For all of human history, land has meant permanence. You build on ground because ground doesn't move. But that assumption is starting to crack. Sea levels are rising roughly 3.4 millimeters every year, and in low-lying coastal cities, that number is a countdown. So what happens when the land runs out from under us? What if the answer isn't higher walls, but no walls at all? Floating cities aren't a new idea. Fishing communities have lived on water for centuries. The Uros people of Lake Titicaca built entire islands out of woven reeds, replacing the bottom layers as they rotted, keeping the structure alive for generations. It worked because the design was flexible. It bent instead of breaking. Modern engineers are chasing that same principle, just at a much larger scale. In 2019, a nonprofit called Oceanix, led by entrepreneur Mark Collins Chen, partnered with the United Nations to design something called Oceanix City. The concept was simple on paper and staggering in practice. Modular hexagonal platforms, each holding a few hundred residents, clustered together into floating neighborhoods. Architect Bjarke Gels, known for reimagining how cities breathe and grow, helped design the layout so that entire districts could detach, rearrange, or expand as needed. Picture city blocks that rearrange themselves like puzzle pieces. Does that sound convenient, or does it sound unsettling? Here's the part that surprises most people. These platforms wouldn't just float. They'd produce their own food, filter their own water, and generate their own power through solar panels and wave energy converters. A floating city could be closer to self-sufficient than most cities on land are today. That flips the usual story. We tend to think of the ocean as the threat, but engineers increasingly see it as the safety net. Of course, someone has to ask the harder question. Who governs a city that isn't anchored to any nation? This is where things get strange. Entrepreneur Patrick Friedman, grandson of economist Milton Friedman, founded the Seasteading Institute in 2008 with a very different goal: build floating communities in international waters free from any single country's laws. His vision wasn't about climate refuge. It was about starting society over from scratch on open water. Would you want to live somewhere with no government watching over you? Or does that sound like the beginning of a very different kind of chaos? The engineering problem is brutal too. Storms don't care about mission statements. A floating platform has to survive waves, corrosion, and shifting weight without capsizing or drifting into shipping lanes. Anchoring systems need to hold steady in water that can be hundreds of meters deep. Materials have to resist saltwater eating through steel over decades. None of this is impossible, but it is expensive, and expense has killed more floating city proposals than physics ever has. So picture it fully realized. A cluster of platforms off a coastline, connected by bridges, covered in gardens instead of concrete, drawing power from the waves beneath it. Children playing on a plaza that gently rises and falls with the tide. Would you ever get used to the motion, or would some part of you always feel like you were standing somewhere temporary? Maybe that feeling is the whole point. For most of history, we built as if the ground would never move. Floating cities ask us to build as if it might. And maybe that's not a loss of stability. Maybe it's the next form of it. Because when the sun comes up tomorrow, your neighborhood might still be exactly where you left it. Or it might have drifted 3 miles out to sea, and somehow that might feel like home too.